Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shruti Mukund, the Director of Community Engagement here at Olney Theatre, and I would like to welcome you to the opening night of Beautiful, the Carole King musical. And this is the set I'm standing on, and this is the most exciting part about my job is that I'm not an actor or a singer, but I get to stand on the stage every opening night. The tradition of the behind the scenes was started to give our audiences an opportunity to explore the themes that emerge or engage within the show that you're going to see on stage. To honor the legacy of Carole King, we've invited some of our favorite local singer-songwriters while highlighting the contributions of the Bernard Ebb Songwriting Competition to the DMV music world and beyond. We have with us singer-songwriters Calista Garcia, winner of the youth category in 2017, Integriti Reeves, a participant, and Juliet Lloyd, adult 2022 winner. Each will perform a short sample of their style of songwriting, and then we will get to sit down with the amazing Cathy Bernard, founder of the Bernard and Ebb Songwriting Awards, to learn about their journeys as female singer-songwriters in today's music industry. You will find the bios of these wonderful artists and the amazing Cathy Bernard in the program provided. First, I would like to welcome Calista Garcia to start off the performance section, and she will be followed by Integriti and then Juliet.
Hi there. It's an honor to be here before the premiere and getting to play music for you all and honor Carole King and the Bernard Ebbs and the Olney Theatre. Yeah. So here's one of mine from my second EP. That's kind of a song of hope and for better times ahead. It's called Magnolia Tree. Life moves like a train with no conductor, no tracks and no brakes. Life can feel like a game where they change the rules every time that you play. I can't count all the ways my plans have been dashed by some new twist of fate. But still I know it's a truth beyond faith that I will be looking on your smiling face under the magnolia tree some sunny day. Under the magnolia tree. Yeah, I'll meet you there when things turn out okay. Today, I've stolen my pride, tracing the tracks of the tears from my eyes. Today, no matter how hard I tried, I stayed in the dark, could not turn on the light. And I have never been the type to ignore the road while I'm searching for signs. But still I know in my heart that it's right, and I will be seeing you, seeing me, seeing you sometime under the magnolia tree. Some starry night under the magnolia tree. Yeah, I'll meet you there when things turn out alright. You win and you lose. There's greens and there's blues. But we're gonna pull through, 'cause I'll be seeing you under the magnolia tree some sunny day. Darling, under the magnolia tree. Yeah, I'll meet you there when things turn out okay. Under the magnolia tree. Some starry night under the magnolia tree. Yeah, I'll meet you there when things turn out alright.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Integriti Reeves, and this is my dear friend and accompanist, Matve Sigala. We're going to be performing a song that I wrote called On the Run, and it has to do with the grieving process and how some people use sort of traveling and moving to deal with their grief. I hope that you enjoy it.
They say that wherever you go, well, there you are. But he still loaded up his car and put the steep hills of his town in his rear view. 'Cause every twisted street reminded him of you, and all those jokes you used to play, and how the road led back to you after so long. So now he's on the run. As memories come, the faster he runs, and when it's said and done, he don't know what he's running from. 'Cause he can't outrun thinking of you. And so he's off to California in the fall. And it don't matter that the palm tree colors never change at all. He's going there. He says anywhere would be a better point of view, instead of staring at the midnight ceiling in the life you knew when you're not there. So now he's on the run. As memories come, the faster he runs, and when it's said and done, 'cause you can't outrun thinking of you. And it's a well that won't run dry. It's a tunnel with no light. But at the end of all this pain, if he could see your face just for a moment, he'd do it all again. Oh, 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 oh. A Sunday flight means that he won't make it to church. He knows you hate that he's been angry, wondering if his prayers will ever even hurt. 'Cause every day's a postcard wishing you were here. And all those little things that used to bother him are now the things that he holds dear. So now he's on the run. His memories come, the faster he runs. God knows that in the end, it's not a race that he can win. 'Cause he can't outrun thinking of you. And he never sees a sunset without thinking how that pink would look on you. No, he can't outrun thinking of you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Juliet Lloyd. I'm so thrilled to be here this evening with you all. I think it's so amazing how you hear the influence of iconic singer-songwriters like Carole King and Joni Mitchell in the music that you're hearing this afternoon, and you can hear the impact that they've had on all of us. I've been writing songs for just over 20 years, and I started writing because I wanted to perform, and all of the artists that I admired were all songwriters themselves. And so I thought, well, you know what? I'm gonna have to write songs for myself. And that was before I had ever written a note. So I was very glad that when I sat down to write, something came out. I'm actually gonna do one of my very early songs. I think this song turned 20 years old this year. And it's one of my mom's favorites. This is called Lullaby.
It's closing time, the end of a night. So close your eyes and let your thoughts drift away. And sleep peacefully tonight. When the morning comes, I'll be gone. Don't what we had and what it seems. And maybe your heart won't break. I've tried so many times before, but can't make it out the door. This will be my last mistake. It's the easy way to go, but harder than you'll ever know. So sleep by me peacefully tonight. When the morning comes, I know I'll be gone, gone. When the morning comes, I know I'll be gone. Oh.
Thank you.
And what a lovely start to honoring Carole King's legacy. Just right here in the DMV area, we're growing such wonderful artists, and we're so excited that we could have them perform for you before we actually talk to them. At this time, we invite all the artists and a great friend of Olney Theatre, past chair of the gala, and a big supporter of the arts in our area, Cathy Bernard. We're so glad she could be here today and fittingly to lead this conversation about growing art and singers and songwriters. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. So why don't we try to do this? Thank you all for coming. But why don't we try to do this informally and start a conversation?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll start with the youngest first. Who I'd like to know how you got into songwriting. What was this like your whole life? I mean, did you know that this is what you were going to do, or did you have an epiphany?
I think I knew pretty young, and it's funny. I was very kind of like lucky in a way of I started making music. I love storytelling. I also kind of figured out that like if you wanted to sing songs, like you wrote them yourself. And I think when you're a kid and you haven't really had any experience yet, you kind of have to like, I'll just go for this, like the kind of like all-inness of like, I'm gonna be a princess, I was like, I want to be a musician, and that's that. And it kind of settled on that quick and made that decision and started doing things in it kind of before some of that like doubt could set in. And then when those experiences come later, I was like, well, I'm doing this and I've been doing this. So it was kind of like that, I think. But I started writing songs when I was like 10 or 11 and playing piano at 6 and guitar at 8 and performing around 10 or 11 too. Yeah.
Good. Tell us about your enlightenment.
Well, I actually am coming from a jazz background, and my education is in jazz. Both my degrees are in jazz studies, and so songwriting, that genre is something that was kind of like a hidden talent of mine. I talked to a friend and they said, well, you should be writing and performing the music that you listen to. And I found myself listening to Joni Mitchell constantly and Carole King constantly and Bob Dylan and so many other great songwriters. But the music that I was writing was in a totally different genre. So I'm exploring this facet of myself in hopes that I will, become an amalgamation of all of those things that have inspired me.
Besides performing, you went to the Peabody School, you started at Duke Ellington.
Yes, Duke
Then you went
Ellington,
to the Peabody School,
that's right, and then
and then
Howard.
Johns
University.
Hopkins and Howard.
Yes.
So you have a musical educational
Yes.
background.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's different than the others, I think. Juliet, tell us about you.
Sure. I'm always jealous when I hear people like Calista say that they started at such a young age. Songwriting for me was not something that was on my radar. I was a musician. My entire life, I started piano lessons when I was very young. I played the trumpet all through elementary school and through college. It was always more of a hobby for me. I was, a performer. I loved performing. I loved singing. I would come home from school every afternoon and immediately go into the basement and just sing songs all afternoon. But it seemed like songwriting and that pathway as a career was not something that was ever on my radar. And I went to college and I got a degree in economics, and I flirted with the idea of going to law school. Thankfully, I didn't. All this time I was performing in choruses and jazz ensembles. And when I graduated from college, I thought, I don't want to go into finance. I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to do music. And like I said, it's doing music for me meant performing, but being able to perform my own music. And so I went back to school a couple of years later to Berklee College of Music in Boston. I studied songwriting for a couple of semesters. I already had a degree, so I didn't feel like I needed to, get another bachelor's degree. But I met amazing musicians. I recorded a couple of albums. And yeah, that was kind of how I made the transition from being an economist and lawyer to being a songwriter.
Well, tonight we're honoring Carole King. So we want to think that she inspired you, but were there other people, other women? I did a list of women singers, and I was actually kind of amazed at how many there were. It's not just the singers, it's the singer-songwriter. Carole King started when she was 16 years old, and the show tonight is from when she was 16. It's about a 15-year history. And when she started her career, she was just a writer. She didn't feel comfortable singing, performing. But all of you write and perform. So who were you trying to copy? Or what were your inspirations? I guess that's a better word.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, as soon as you started talking about Carole King inspirations, like I had this flashback to I feel like the first day of 6th grade in middle school. I was too nervous to eat lunch with people, so I just read a book during it. And I remember at the time it was Girls Like Us. If you know that book, that's like a 3-way biography of Carole King, Joni Mitchell, and Carly Simon. And so I definitely grew up with Joni Mitchell. I grew up with a lot of 70s artists. Fleetwood Mac was really big. Stevie Nicks, I definitely wanted to be her when I was very young. And but I mean, so many. Like right now, I think most.
That's okay. I mean,
But yeah,
short and sweet.
short and sweet. Those are, and more modern, like Florence and the Machine and Fiona Apple. I kind of joke and say like singer-songwriters. Like sometimes male singer-songwriters feel like they're singing to you, and then sometimes from my perspective, female singer-songwriters feel like they're your own brain talking. In my perspective.
Juliet, who was your, people you were following?
Yeah, I think for me, Lilith Fair was a big turning point in the late 90s. There was this amazing resurgence of wonderful, powerful female singer-songwriters, Alanis Morissette, Sarah McLachlan, Meredith Brooks, Fiona Apple, all of these amazing women who wrote their own songs, performed their own songs, and put together a festival that proved that female musicians can sell tickets, which is still, still a thing that we grapple with today in the industry. Can female musicians, can female-fronted festivals actually sell tickets? And the answer is yes. So that was a big part of my musical evolution, I think, when I was a teenager.
Who's your inspiration?
I would piggyback on what's already been said. Joni Mitchell for sure is a huge inspiration for me. Fleetwood Mac, and more modern day singers, Regina Spektor, Feist, Bird and the Bee, all of these amazing people who are writing their own music. Anyone who is writing their own story is somebody who I gravitated towards immediately.
The other day I was putting down names. I came Patti Smith, Billie Holiday, Loretta Lynn, Laura Nyro, Linda Ronstadt, Joan Baez, Judy Collins. I wonder how many people Taylor Swift is inspiring to do this. I mean, I think certainly the younger generation, but Christine McVie, Dolly Parton, Joni Mitchell, Sade, Nina Simone, and Carly Simon, and that's just a very short list that I was doing on the beach, actually. But you know, I was a little surprised that there are so many singer-songwriters. And that gets us to the contest, Bernard Ebb, which is kind of why we're here. All of you have applied, and you each have a different story. Calista was from 2017, you were 16, you told me, and you were the winner of the young person. She's now 23. And I'm not looking for kudos, but what did entering and being in the contest do for you?
I mean, it did a ton. I mean, I think the separation during that time was between like being known as just the music kid. Like I was kind of known as, oh, she's the one who's like always playing guitar. And then you don't really think about career as much at that age, but starting to think like, oh, I can do this in a real way and at least have something beyond what I'm playing for my immediate vicinity. And then confidence to just sort of be more emboldened in the choices I made, and also just to connect me with the larger DMV scene was a huge part of it. I mean, I think 2 years later I was a Stratford Artist in Residence, which like further really.
Stratford people are here, so
yes.
How did that help you also?
Oh, a ton. It was amazing. I mean, Betty Scott's phenomenal.
Betty Scott runs that program. She's run it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And we're here cheerleaders for them too.
Yeah.
But we really do live in an area that gives opportunities for people to succeed and to perform and to flourish.
Yeah.
And that's really important. But to know that you did that at 16, I think that's pretty incredible. And that you're still around. I mean, I didn't know your story before tonight, but tell us your story about the competition. It's a little bit different than these two.
It is different. I have applied for about 5 years and never made it to the semifinal round. However,
I'm not a judge, so I don't.
That's fine. To me, and my philosophy in everything I do is you invest 100% in the preparation and nothing in the outcome, because I believe you never lose at preparing for something like this. You have to really look inside yourself to see, am I prepared? How better can I make this application? And each year my application has been stronger and stronger, and I'm having this opportunity right now for this.
Keep doing it.
I will.
We've done it for 8 years. If you don't succeed at the first, you might succeed again. We bring in judges from other areas.
Absolutely.
And, several hundred people apply. So, every year it's a different group. So I had not heard that story until tonight. I was interested in that. But I hope you'll keep doing it. We need applicants.
Happy to be in the number.
Juliet, tell us about how did it affect you?
Sure, and I promise Cathy isn't paying me to say this. It was transformational, in a word. I took 10 years off from performing and songwriting. I didn't write a single song between 2011 and 2021. And during that time, I got a real job as a consultant here in DC. And during the pandemic, felt the calling, as many of us kind of took a step back and reevaluated our priorities. And for me, that was really thinking about, there's something still there for me with music and songwriting. And gosh, I haven't written a song in 10 years. So do I still call myself a songwriter? Can I even still do this? And so for me, writing a couple of songs, and I entered, I think, my very first 2 songs post-hiatus into the Bernard Ebb competition, and those were the 2 songs that won the prize for me. And so for me, it was equal parts kind of validation and confidence boosting, like you said, proving to me that this is something that I still can do, that there is a viable pathway for me. It introduced me again to the wonderful community of other artists and songwriters who are so supportive, and I've gotten opportunities to perform with my fellow participants. from, as a result of that. And it also opened, I didn't know that these kinds of competitions existed. And since then, I've entered and participated in ones in Montana. I was in Texas. It's the first one that I won, and it's been, it was a door that I didn't realize was, open to participate in for songwriters like
the other
us.
ones in what? Do they give the same kind of prize?
They do not. The money is nowhere near
That's
what yours is.
That's what they're accounting for.
And I tell everybody when I'm out of state, participating in these, they're like, how much money did you win? Because a lot of these, that you have to pay to travel there, and then the prize is like nothing. But then I get to tell them, well, you can only be a part of this one if you live in this area. So,
Yeah, we're talking about women singer-songwriters. In life, women, it's harder for women to succeed than men. I mean, not to be sexist, but that's the truth. It's harder to succeed. Do you feel that being a woman has been a help, a hindrance? Tell us about your experience. Why don't you go first?
I think that there are an enormous amount of challenge and opportunity also being a woman. My experience makes me who I am, and so I'm grateful for every opportunity and every setback, because it comes through my songs, it comes through my teaching, it comes through how I am as a friend and as a person. So I try to look at the glasses half full in everything that I do and how I interact with people.
that's really nice. I'm going to give you the half empty mirror. No, I think, I have a lot of kind of funny stories in my career about how being a woman has impacted, my pathway. I think I'll share one. Just the sort of the assumptions and the misogyny that are inherent in the industry. I was purchasing a keyboard a couple of years ago from a very well-known online retailer of musical equipment. And they have very aggressive salespeople who, as soon as you place the order, they call you and leave a message on your phone. And so after I bought this keyboard, I immediately got a voicemail from a male sales representative who was asking me if the keyboard was for my male partner or perhaps my son. Because it couldn't possibly be that a woman was buying a keyboard for herself. And I bought a case for the keyboard from a separate retailer and had an identical message that was left on my phone saying, oh, I noticed you bought this case, this can't possibly be for you. It has to be for the male in your life. So it's so interesting, the assumptions. And, I'll share one other kind of funny, sad anecdote, which is trying to do your own booking as a female, reaching out to venue after venue after venue to try to get them to, pay attention to you, to stick out in the, kind of needle in a haystack way. And there were a couple of venues locally that I emailed constantly, sharing videos of us performing. And as a kind of a test, I had my male partner email a couple of the same venues, and the ones that had never responded to me immediately responded to his email. Same video, same material, everything, but it was coming from a man. So I have to imagine that there are some barriers. I've experienced them. I'm sure you've experienced them as well. But I think I loved your answer that you fold that into your songwriting. You use it. It makes you stronger. It makes you more driven to succeed.
Yeah,
Tell us your experience.
Yeah, there's so much to say. It's like there's a minefield anyways to being in the arts, and I think the minefield quality of it is way upped by being a woman in the arts, or really in the industry, but something I've seen a lot. But I think, for better or worse, full angle, you pick up a lot of skill sets from both having your wits and your intuition about you a lot of the time, which is something that I'm really grateful for and I've learned over time. But also when you are going into rooms where people automatically probably don't think you belong there, or are assuming out the gate that you probably don't know what you're doing, it can be easy to get kind of in a negative way, get a shell, but in a more positive way, be like, oh, but look, I can juggle, look how much I can do. And you kind of learn to sort of to try to become someone who can't really be not bought, or not, you have sort of okay, you have to buy that I can do this. Like, I'm going to convince you. And in some ways that kind of does create like an inner drive to be like, no, you're going to take me seriously. I'm going to make sure I come in and know what I'm doing. That in some ways is like shored up and definitely add the drive and the strength. And I think a lot of female artists, because we have to like juggle with all hands and feet to be seen in some ways, we can juggle, where some who don't have to can't in some ways. But yeah.
You know, being an artist is hard. I mean, you need an opportunity.
Mhm.
You need people to recognize you.
Mhm.
And that's what the songwriting contest is, based on what I observed from my life about my uncle, who made it, but it took a long time. And who wrote many things, and they weren't a success. And many people didn't like them. And, you know, there's more turn downs than turn ups. And so it is difficult to be an artist. And you only get paid if it's a success. You know, you don't get paid just by showing up. You don't get paid 9 to 5. You know, it's a different kind of a job. How do you come up with what you write about? I mean, you know, like the song. I mean, he did shows that had a book, and so he had to, you know, write songs based on that. But I've always wondered, like, you know, how do you come up with what you write about? Juliet.
Sure. For me, it's evolved a little bit across my career. When I first started out, I was young and I didn't know what I was doing, and so I wrote, this is what I think a song should sound like. And there wasn't a lot of truth and a lot of my own experiences baked in. When I came back to it a few years ago, nearly everything that I've written since then has been based on an experience that I've gone through, a relationship that I've had, whether it's, you know, a relationship with my mother, a relationship with a partner, a relationship with somebody else in the music community who's done me wrong, you know, those kinds of things. I draw very much from personal experiences, and you kind of file them away, and they don't always immediately result in a song, and sometimes it'll take me a couple of years to kind of figure out, oh, that's what that meant to me, and I think there's a song in there. Recently, I've kind of honestly gotten a little bored of writing about myself, and so I'm finding inspiration in books, in history. I started writing a song. I read an NPR article about a woman who lived in the Belvedere Hotel in New York her entire life and supposedly never had a single visitor. And she passed away, and there were all these questions about who she was and how that could possibly be true. And so that inspired a song. And I just finished reading a book about divorce ranches in Reno, and I was really fascinated about divorce ranches. So in the 50s, wealthy women could go to Nevada, and if they lived there for 6 weeks on these ranches, they could legally get a divorce. And I was just fascinated by that, so I wrote a song about that. And so I'm trying to kind of diversify and not write about myself so much anymore.
That's a new one. Okay. Where do you get your ideas? You just did one about loss, so somebody died.
Yes.
So you write stuff about people dying, or?
I write about whatever I see and whatever I experience. And actually, my very first opportunity to write was through the Strathmore Artist in Residence program. I was commissioned to write a piece, and I wrote a piece about Billie Holiday. It was kind of a biography piece, and that sort of snowballed into like writing about anything that I learned about, anything I saw, people's relationships, people's, you know, loss and grief, because this wasn't my loss. It was someone who was close to me, but it wasn't my story. But I found a solace and connection in writing about things that I observe and things that I see, things that I feel.
So it's your life experiences.
Life experience, but also in the broader context of experience, period, because I think that that's where connection can emerge from.
Leslie, what do you write about?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because there's like two separate sides, and that is the personal stuff I write for myself, and then I have written 2 shows, and I'm working on a show right now that I've been writing the book for too, and it's just such a different writing experience. So for my own work, it's kind of the same as like Juliet, you were saying. I mean, I would joke during the pandemic, I would take virtual therapy calls from my piano bench, and it's a pretty thin line. Like I just kind of put whatever I'm feeling into the songs. It's very much just my way of processing what happens, and then you know, writing for characters, writing for a show, and the show is about like a witch coven in the 70s. You know, that is very much like vibrating and writing characters who I would love to hang out with, and kind of like going to a happy place. It's a bit escapist, it's not about me, and it's just somewhere that's nice to be. And so it's like, yeah.
I mean, Carole King wrote songs for a long time and didn't perform them. And I don't know if she had stage fright or whatever. Have any of you ever thought of writing and not performing them? Have you done that?
Yeah. I mean, both like songs for pitch, and then also, yeah, when I've written for the stage, it's for other people to sing. And I do enjoy it. It's kind
How
of
does that feel when someone else is singing your song? There's a song like that. I think there was a song like that. You're singing my song. I don't know who wrote that, but there was a song about that. You're singing my song. Does that feel weird that someone is singing your song and it's not you?
I kind of like it. I mean, it's a mix. It depends. I think I wouldn't give one that was like about, if it was a super like torrid, cathartic, personal thing, I probably wouldn't give it. But it kind of feels like, this sounds so weird. It's like when you're a kid and play with dolls and you like have them sing. It's like really cool. It's like, wow, like my song is coming out of your voice. This is something I couldn't create, but you're doing something with it and you're adding to it, and that's really special.
Have you written stuff that you don't sing?
No, I've not yet. I'll say that. I like to be optimistic. Not yet. I've only performed the things that I've written, and I've written about 7 or 8 songs that I'm working on an EP for. And the guitarist that you met earlier, I brought those songs to him and said, okay, well, do you think someone else could sing these? You know, there were some country things, some folk things, a little bit of jazz, some indie rock, and he's like, no, nobody is going to sing this the way that you're going to sing it, because they're my songs. So I haven't had the experience yet of writing for other people, but one day I'd love to include that into what I do.
What about you, Juliet?
I have a few songs, more as of late, that I've written that I know are not ones that I ultimately will record and release. So if anyone here has any connections in Nashville, I have a couple of hit songs that just need that. I've also found too, I've been doing more co-writing lately with other songwriters, and I find in those situations where you're contributing ideas and you're playing off of each other, usually what results from those are not necessarily things that I would record myself, but more things that I would be comfortable, having other artists cut.
Is it a competitive community? I mean, you keep it to yourself, like what you write, or you like, well, I'm in business, so it's very competitive, and nobody wants to tell anybody how much money they make, what they do. Okay, so in the songwriting community, how competitive is it?
I'll jump. I haven't experienced much competitiveness, especially when it comes to like co-writing. There's a saying that, if you're in the room, you end up splitting it equally, which I think is really nice. And it's sort of this sense of trust that, okay, I showed up today, maybe I contributed a line, but maybe next time I'll contribute a lot more than that. And there's just sort of a give and take that if you were in the room, just your presence there contributed enough to the song. So I don't find that there's a lot of competitiveness. And what I've found lately, especially, that I really love is that, we were all talking about what a tough business is, and I love when I have the chance to talk to other songwriters, to other artists, and be super vulnerable about all the things that we're struggling with, because I think with social media, all you ever see are the highlights. I played this amazing gig, I won this competition, and it sort of masks the day-to-day reality. And so I love when the walls come down and there's not this sense of competitiveness, where we can just be honest with each other and say, like, yeah, this venue was horrible to me, or I'm struggling with, feeling like I don't belong at this festival. And I find that to be the opposite of being competitive.
And what about you?
I agree. I've only experienced an incredible sense of community in the songwriting genre. I was a part of a songwriting group on the Zoom during the pandemic, and it was incredible for me because, during that time, nobody was doing anything. It was just like very, nobody knew what was going on. So to have this outlet of other songwriters to give you feedback, it was all constructive feedback, and to give you, just encouragement that, your songs are good and you should play them out. And so it was there that I kind of found my footing. Like I could write something other than, like harmonically dense jazz composition. Like this is great. Like I can be powerful with just 4 chords. Like, so that community was really transformative for me and my writing and my confidence to dip a toe into this genre.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of think the songwriting communities and the songwriting aspect is kind of like the safest, most supportive aspect, I'd say, of the music industry. I recently, some artist friends of mine and I started a songwriting group. And not only a songwriting group, but sort of this thing where we meet monthly, bi-monthly, and have a prompt, and we all share songs, and then we learn each other's songs and we jam it. And it's really special, and it's really special because, like, not that any of it matters, but like, hope it doesn't, but we're all sort of in very different stages of our career. But it's kind of just like, at the end of the day, no matter what we're doing on the outside, we're playing our songs with this amount of people, and we're sharing a vulnerable thing, and we're sort of all in this together and sharing our souls together and holding each other through it. And so, yeah, I think songwriting is, like, the business stuff is like one thing, but songwriting is kind of like the soul matter, and I think people generally treat that really well and treat each other really well within it, I found.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You don't like that question? Like, where are you going from here? I guess I'm task oriented.
Yeah.
I like that. I've thought a lot about this, being that I, came from a business background, and I'm very goal oriented, which is part of the frustration of being a creative now full time, is that success isn't as linear or predictable as it is in the corporate world, and I've really, really struggled with that. 5 years from now, hopefully, let me go a little shorter than that. So I have a new album coming out at the end of October, and it's a project that I've been working on for about a year, and I'm really, really excited about it. It's a huge step forward for me artistically. I think the songwriting is better than I've ever produced anything in my career. The production is amazing, and so I'm placing a big bet on it. I'm hiring a PR agency to rep it. They're based in Nashville. I am paying for photography and putting a lot of my own money into this project in the hopes that this will be something that will take me to the next step in my career. And so hopefully a year from now, I will have have successfully released that project. We'll have, gotten to that next step, and it's kind of hard to say what that looks like, except it's, playing more of the kinds of venues that I want to be playing. It's hopefully being well on my way to releasing the next project, whatever that is. It's, continuing to grow a community around me. I don't want to say fans or supporters, because what it really is, it's the opportunity to connect with people through music. That's why that's why we all do what we do. And I think being able to continue to kind of grow that community and be able to do this and be sustainable.
So it all started with the contest. You won the contest, and that spurred you on. That was, it makes me proud that it had some effect. I mean, you want what you do to have effect on people besides the money. So that's a good story. And where do you see yourself going?
Well, I'm also working on a project. It's a 7-song EP, and it's in this genre. It's my first foray into singer-songwriter and sort of folk and country, but it's things that I'm listening to. It's inspired by things that I'm listening to and experiences that I've had. So I hope the next 5 years will continue in the sense of expansiveness, that I'll be able to perform at places with my jazz compositions. I just had great show at the Kennedy Center last night, but it was all jazz. So I'm hoping that I will be able to include this folk facet of myself into my performance, into my teaching, and I'm also a new mom, so I'm looking forward to finding inspiration through her. And she's been like the muse that I'm chasing, because I haven't been able to write a melody for her yet. So I'm hoping that happens soon too, and just continuing on.
I hope so too. Question?
Yeah, it's so funny because I sometimes do have things that like are projects that are in the works that I can see in the next 5 years. I do think while I'm doing them, I think I'm very 2 feet in whatever, and it's sort of a lot of artists have to be like very 2 feet in wherever we're at musically, where we can keep brainstorming, but we also really want to be obsessed with what we're doing right now. And so those things are, I'm getting in the studio at the end of July and I'm recording an album that I'm really, really excited about. And I'm going to do that whole rollout process, and that's really exciting. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about is that I have been redrafting the show that I wrote and trying to finish a draft of it definitely within the year to continue workshopping. I'm in New York right now, but to get actors reading it and sort of that process is a lengthy one, as you know, and so that's definitely something I'm excited to just kind of keep being able to recraft and work with, because it is that sort of like long game project. It's something that went up when I was younger, but it's like now very different, and so that's definitely something I would love to be more aligned with.
You won in 2017, so that was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're still doing it, and that's good. I know it makes me feel good. Now, I don't want to, well, I do want to cut you off, I guess, because what we're going to do is take some questions. But I want to end this. Thank you all for doing this. Kara King, really, tapestry was her big thing. I mean, it was in 1973, I understand. And she's really known for the songs she's written, not so much for what she's performed. And, this is special that you write and sing. And I'm, very proud of that. But why don't we open it up to some questions and see, does anyone have anything that they're burning to ask or desire or whatever? I hear.
Well, Joni Mitchell was mentioned, so
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
You have a specific Joni Mitchell song that has inspired you, and you'd like to discuss it.
Was there a specific Joni Mitchell song that inspired any of you?
Two come to mind. Lesson in Survival from For the Roses. Generally that record is a big one. The Blue Album, generally, River was the first one to learn the piano. Carrie, a lot of those ones, yeah, so what come to mind.
I agree. Those are so beautiful. I've been on a sort of Hejira kick, and so Amelia is something that it's like a study for me, how she crafts story with the emotion of her own personality, her own personhood, and how that connects with other people. So that's a huge one. And then from the Blue Album, All I Want is one of my very favorite ones. I just love how she weaves in and out of rhythm and melody being the focal point. And so, but I could go on and on about every album is, a different Joni.
Well, her big song is Both Sides Now, right? Signature did a cabaret of her, and all of her music, and it was pretty incredible. Some I had never heard of, but she's been around a long time, and her music has really survived very well. Did you want to say anything?
I was going to say Both Sides Now, so you beat me to that. Yeah, I'm newer to Joni Mitchell. I didn't listen to her really up until the last couple of years. And I read her autobiography last year, and it was fascinating. And the story behind it, she actually, I think, started writing Both Sides Now literally while she was on a plane ride, looking at the clouds, looking down. So, yeah.
Good. Are there any other questions? The quiet audience. I guess we didn't turn anybody on here, okay? Wait, I'm sorry. Is there another question?
Where?
Yeah, I can't hear you.
I found your comments inspiring for all of us, just your journey that you're on. And as I'm listening, I'm hearing that songwriting and performing are two very different gifts that all of you seem to have. My question is, which one for each of you gives you the greatest joy and really test what you're made of as an artist?
Which gives you, I didn't hear it. Did you
That's
hear
a great, I'll summarize. So with performing and songwriting being two separate skills, where do we derive them? What challenges us the most? What gives us the most joy? Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a wonderful question. You know, for me, it's changed in my career. If you had asked me 20 years ago when I first started out, I would have said performing. I love to sing. I love to, have people say, you have such a nice voice. That's what I loved early on in my career. And coming back to it later on with some perspective and some more meaty things to write about, I love and am challenged by the writing process. That's where I derive the most joy. I love, even if it's something that I will never perform in public, and I have a few of those, maybe the Reno song, I'm not sure about that. I love challenging myself to write a better song, to be technically better, to try, I find that it's so fascinating, the craft of it, in a way that I didn't appreciate 20 years ago.
I am on the fence about it. I love performing. It's my life's blood, and it's what I do most often. However, I think composition, it's like the challenge. It's like the digging through the muck and mire to find this beautiful jewel. And I think Michelangelo has a quote about seeing every piece of stone in its entirety as a complete and beautiful sculpture, and his craft is to move things out of the way that don't serve that. And so I think of songwriting and composition in that way. It's moving things out of the way to reveal the true essence of yourself, whatever that is in the moment.
Which do you like better, performing, writing?
I think writing for me. I do love performing so much. I love connecting with people. I think that's the aspect I love the most. But sorry, I feel lip smacks. But as I'm talking, but no, I think I like crafting, like the cooking and creating. I've gotten more into visual art recently too. But whether it's writing words or stuff like that, I think that's just where I feel really comfortable. Yeah, I would say probably that aspect, being in the kitchen with it, so to speak. Yeah.
We're running out of time. Jeff?
I'm curious, one of you alluded to the community that you develop when you are going to festivals or competitions. Carole King grew up in the Brillville, New York, which was filled with contemporary songwriters. Lieber and Stoller and, the whole group. You think about Austin, you think about Nashville, and those communities are sort of known for nurturing talented artists and sometimes blowing up their careers. Is there anything like that you have here in the DMV in which people who are working at your craft can share ideas and bounce things off of one another?
Say yes. And this is a question that I've actually struggled with, right? It's like, is there enough of a community here that it can support what I ultimately want to accomplish versus packing up and moving to Nashville or moving to Austin or New York or LA, right? I will say that the community here is incredibly nurturing. There's more of it than you would expect, but for a lot of people, it's not a full-time thing, right? There's not that many of us that only do this, right? It's, you have a lot of people who do it on the side. It's a hobby, and that makes it feel a little bit different when everybody's kind of got one foot in the working world and one foot in the artistic world. It makes it harder to juggle priorities, and so yeah, that's something that I've honestly thought a lot about. Ultimately, is the DC community, as wonderful and supportive as it is it ultimately the right place? Is it big enough? Is there enough opportunity here to sustain the kind of career that, any one of us is going for? So to be determined.
For me, and I don't want to embarrass the Strathmore people, but the Strathmore Artist in Residence program has been incredibly transformative for me as a community member. Every opportunity that I've gotten in the last, 10 years or so, somehow has traced back to Strathmore and the people that I know through them, the friends that I've made, the family that I've made. Really, I would consider a lot of the people from my class and from other classes family. Several of them came to the christening of my baby. Like we've become friends, and that has helped me in my career as an artist and as an instructor. So I think programs like that are incredibly important because they foster the growth of the community. And so without those, I agree. I think it can be hit or miss with full-time artists.
Yeah, I agree with those points, and especially Strathmore. So I currently live in New York now, but I have been in the DMV scene. I only moved there 2 years ago, and I've been in the DMV scene since before 2017, as you know. And I think the really good word you used is nurturement, to talk about like the really special ways the DMV scene does take care of artists. And the reason I keep coming back for stuff, like I have shows with you, like I keep seeing you, I keep playing shows with you, like I'm still down here all the time. And a lot of that is, even though there are a lot of artists, obviously in New York, that does not mean that there are programs and supports for them in the way that there are here. Stuff like Strathmore and Bernard Ebbs, that really, in talking about there's community of fellow musicians, there's also community with people who support musicians. And I think that is a really special thing that there is here. I feel like artists are really uniquely supported here. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, we need to wrap it up, but I'm going to give a plug for the Bernard Ebb competition. The next show is on April 3rd at Strathmore, and all these 3 people participated, and we hope that, well, you will continue to do so, because, we've had people that have applied a couple times and they win. So we hope that you'll come, and it's really special. And tonight, we're going to hear about Carole King, who's spent her life doing that, and we know her, but hopefully in 5 years or 2 years or whatever, we'll know some of you. And I really want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank you for participating. And being a songwriter, being in the arts, is really a special thing, because it's something you keep plugging at, and sometimes you make it, and sometimes you don't. But you don't need to give up your dream. You need to keep pursuing it. And our contest and other opportunities that are trying to help you fulfill that dream and to use your talent to the best of your ability. You can't give up when you have a dream, whether it's the competition, it's the turn downs or whatever. So tonight, let's think about all of you and about Carole King, who made it. And if you follow your dream and you don't give up, you can make it too. So thank you for coming.